Hey everyone, so my name is Thasin. I started this organization called VistaLifeCharts. Our focus is on ensuring that people's end-of-life wishes are known and adhered to. Next slide. So, as you transition from when you're young, your body's really resilient. You do things to your body, it usually kind of survives and lasts. As you get older, things are a bit different. Effectively, every decision you make is almost a trade-off between quality of life and quantity of life. And healthcare decisions have the same reciprocal kind of effects and side effects of different healthcare outcomes. A couple of examples that come to mind, one of which Stanford, for instance, has an issue where once or twice a week, a lady who's like 85 years old is unable to breathe and they perform CPR on her. But when you're older, CPR doesn't necessarily bring you back to life, it destroys all your ribs and it may not actually bring you back. And they find that after that, the person had DNR order in place. Another example is that you might have someone who really enjoys playing violin, but they take a certain medication that. And you guys. How's it going, John?
Thasin, as you're presenting, please sort of face the front of the room. You don't have so that you're facing the microphone. It makes it a lot easier for us to hear.
Okay, sounds good. So another scenario is that you might have an individual who enjoys playing violin, but because they take a certain medication that impairs motor function, and those discussions never really came about in the healthcare setting, now their kind of quality of life is diminished significantly. So what we see within TV shows that things like CPR and life-sustaining treatments for people in comas might bring someone back to life, it's not necessarily the case, and oftentimes we tend to rely on these end-of-life treatments that may not really bring the quality of life that the people want, which brings a lot of burden to families, to clinicians, and the like. So next slide. So the reason why there's an issue with really understanding and actually documenting even a lot of these end-of-life wishes is, first of all, it's associated with these decisions in advance directive is a very difficult to fill out full-time medical document. You might go through with a lawyer, but the lawyer doesn't necessarily understand all the medical components of it. You might go through with a doctor, but the doctor may not necessarily understand the legal components of it. And the patient's left to kind of understand what the decisions that they're making. The other issue is that the practice is not very standardized. Every hospital is very different. Every state is very different. And patients can get really lost in the process. There's no very good referral processes for palliative care and things like that, which makes it hard to understand where the next steps are. And lastly, death is a very difficult topic. Clinicians, when you're in medical school, you're not trained to deal with death. You're trained how to fix disease. Death is almost viewed as failure for people. And a lot of physicians are afraid to broach the topic. So referrals to things like hospice care and palliative care, which is good for patients for the end of life, are oftentimes ignored. And again, families are also have a hard time dealing with it and discussing it with patients. Next slide. So we're working on a solution that helps attack all three of these items. First of which is that whole difficult conversation piece. The thing is, like we said, as you get older, there's a trade-off that you do between quality of life and quantity of life. So instead of these conversations being around, hey, someone has disease, let's do this treatment, the conversation should be more about what are this person's goals and values in life, and figure out what those treatment mechanisms are that allow for that. So an example here is that, if a patient wants a life-sustaining treatment procedure next week, that's kind of what the status quo is right now. But if you find out that that individual really wants to live towards his daughter's graduation, which is in 3 weeks, maybe forgo this treatment because it's a risk of a coma. You need to figure out another treatment option that might be better. Next slide. The other piece that we want to do is that creating a statewide directory for these types of documents, because with that Stanford example that we mentioned, where a patient comes in and find out their wishes after the fact, the thing is EMS doesn't have access to these records. If I fill out an advance directive, it might be with my lawyer. My lawyer is not giving it to my doctor. So these documents can be put into an electronic database that hospitals have access to, EMS has access to, families have access to, other caregivers have access to, so that is available. And the thing is, between 30 and 40% of Americans have these documents in place, but in the healthcare setting, it's only available under 25% of the time. And lastly, providing clinician resources to actually engage in these topics. The thing is, doctors aren't trained expert palliative care commissions, and there just aren't enough palliative care commissions to involve the older people in the population. And the thing is, people do want to talk about these topics. There are studies that show that 95% of adults are okay with having this conversation with doctors, but only 7% actually say they have. Next slide. So the solution we built looks like the following. We built both a patient and a provider side for this tool, which is kind of all underlined with the patient wishes document, which we call the VistaLifeChart side. Within this is that registry where we're storing their wishes, their legal documents, and everything's all in one place for the entire system to get access to it. On the patient side, you have access to all the education materials that they might need, as well as other state-specific tools, and then a way to provide access controls to those around them. On the provider side, you have other educational tools, conversation scripts, and ways to electronically file those documents on their side. We're building other things as well down the road, including, because we haven't connected both sides yet, and we're also looking to provide ways to integrate this with the entire health system. Next slide. This is a kind of an overview of what this looks like. This is from the provider side. So as a professional doing advanced care planning for my patients, here's my portal. Within here, I might see educational resources, including ways to how my own biases around death might impact the way I work with patients and things like that, as well as a place to add all the patients' clients onto here. So once you add a client, you can click Show Profile. Next slide. Within which you can find a series of different guides to actually engage the patients on conversations. So initially, previous slide. So again, there's a series of different conversations we have. They range from how to actually broach these conversations and make that a little bit less stigmatized. It can be what are your goals and values in life. It can be deciding who your healthcare proxy is if you end up in a coma and can't make a choice for yourself. And within here, you can kind of keep track of all those things. And it's a checklist for the clinicians to understand they've gone through the topics that they need to the patients, and then the families and the providers all are on the same page. Let's see where to click on the Get Started pages. Next slide. It provides a system essentially where they can document their notes on a compliant manner, and also quotes that they can say. So if I don't know how to engage the topic of death right away, because I don't know where we started, we provide quotes that they can do to actually engage in those conversations. Next slide. Conversely, we've also built a patient portal as well. So within the patient portal, they can actually upload their information to our registry, as well as get access to resources to engage these conversations with their families as well, because the family is another big thing. Oftentimes, I might have my own wishes, but if I end up in a place where I can't make a choice for myself, my family might override what the choices are. They don't know. We haven't had the conversation in the first place. Next slide. Another piece that we're thinking about as well, and we've just built this recently, is that there's other things that matter besides healthcare in terms of the care of a person as they get older. Like informal caregiving is a huge thing, and a lot of right now family members get involved in terms of care of people. And things like companionship, things like getting help, getting around, things like cooking help, help at home. These are things that people need access to as they get older. And we've built like a portal with people on the other side that are actually able to provide access to these resources to these individuals. Next slide. So the value proposition we provide from the patient side is that we ensure that the wishes are met and known across the continuum of care. As a result, there's a reduced production and burden on the family, both financially because these life-sustaining treatments are very expensive and these additional treatments that are provided.
Can you talk to the mic? They're not here.
Oh, sorry.
In Reno.
Okay, got it. And it can be very emotional as well, and we reduce those burdens. We also provide access to those additional resources to improve quality of life and also help people make informed decisions about those wishes and those choices that they make. From the provider side, we ease the process of starting advanced care planning. We facilitate patient-centric care by focusing on values and goals. And we give access to important information to the patients at the right time, alongside with version controls. And this in turn reduces expenditures related to end-of-life care. Because end-of-life care, we spend about $550 billion a year in the last 3 years of the patient's life. The way we look to make money is we're looking at 3 types of markets. The patient side, that marketplace application that you saw, we're going to make revenue off of the services that we provide. From the provider side, which includes not just clinicians, but also nurses, social workers, doulas, lawyers that all engage in these types of conversations. It's a SaaS application that we're providing them on a monthly service. And then we also have a third market down the road, which is going to be health systems and states. The states and health systems need access to this data, and they'd be willing to pay for this, an API access call to get access to information for when they need it. Next slide. So currently, we're actually just getting started, looking to raise seed round, about $350,000. We built kind of the initial version, but there's a more robust solution that we're looking to build. Right now, we're currently working with about 40 clinicians, getting feedback from them, and we have 5 hospitals that are also involved, including Vanderbilt, UT Austin, University of Vermont, and Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And we're just collecting the feedback and understanding what our product roadmap needs to look like over the next period of time. And looking to bring on 2 people to work with me as well as part of this initiative. Next slide. So I'm not alone in this space. There's a few other organizations interested in this whole end-of-life care. They're either completely involved in the patient side, so they provide these tools directly to the patient, foregoing the kind of the health system side. But again, that leads to the issue of the patient having something documented, but no one in the health system having access to it. And then there are companies on the other side, which is focused solely on providing tools to providers, but they're not very patient-centered. So we're combining the two and making sure that we're kind of best of both. Next slide. So some background about me. I actually moved to Vegas about a year ago. I previously had worked at SAP where I had P&L roles and product roles. And I've had previous backgrounds in medical education and technology, working in a medical education company as an early employee, experience working in hospices and emergency departments during school. And again, what really compelled me to look at this topic is my grandmother passed away with Alzheimer's. And I do believe kind of the last 60 years of her life were spent in a way that probably were against her wishes, because very few of us were willing to engage in the conversations here to address those things. So that's it on my side, and I appreciate everyone's time.